means. Let's start signing people and start spending some money.
I'm very excited to be here and be a part of the Yankees.
These are the first guys going off the board. Shaw, Neshek, Morrow, Gregerson, Hunter.
Marcell Ozuna officially a St. Louis Cardinal.
Are the teams calling about Manny, though?
Of course. They're calling about you. We're working on a middle-of-the-order bat, and it's pretty easy without me broadcasting to the world who I think fits.
They're trying very hard. It would be quite an interesting move if San Diego was able to pull it off.
Ian Kinsler is moving from the Tigers to the Angels.
Rodney 1 year with the Twins. Cishak, of course, goes to the Cubs, and Piscotty will go to Oakland.
The acquisition of talent, long-term talent, is something that we need to continue to focus in on.
The Yankees were in the mix. They send Chase Headley to the San Diego Padres.
The Cardinals trying for Josh Donaldson.
Red Sox are trying to sign both JD Martinez and Eric Hosmer.
They have a narrow window here.
They do.
Perhaps this would extend the window.
I mean, every offseason's pressure for us. There's high expectations.
The season may be over, but the action is just getting started.
Yeah, it certainly is. And if the winter meetings told us anything, it's they've developed these storylines. Bullpen arms, very important. We saw a lot of managers on our sets throughout the few days in Orlando. And also, money is going to be spent for sure. So those are the three topics we'll touch on over the next few minutes. But let's start with the relievers. A lot of notables, and they're all kind of in that same money range. Like, nobody's blowing up the market. Again, Wade Davis not on this list, and maybe he's a different breed. But if we look at this, Dan, I'll start with you. As a reliever who's, I could just see you drooling over it.
No, I'm crying. No, I'm not drooling. I'm actually crying.
Oh, okay.
I'm crying, Paul, because that's where I made my living. And I think one of the things we look at the game of baseball right now, Jake McGee, average annual salary, $9 million a year, right? That's for a guy that doesn't pitch to 90. Right. Think how far we've come, Ron. It got to a point. Let's go back a couple off seasons ago. Dylan Betances was kind of looked at the arbitration process. Now, you don't pitch the ninth inning. You're not a closer. So this is kind of where we want to hold your salary down.
Well, remember, I mean, we were only told 2 or 3 seasons ago that relief pitchers were fungible. It didn't matter who you signed.
Right.
Year to year, you never knew what you were going to get. And now, because of what we try to think of the themes, right? The theme I got from the winter meetings, other than nothing happened, Dan, while you were there, is that pitchers are now being told, starting pitchers, that they can't get through the third time through the lineup. So now they have to sign all these guys.
Interesting. We had Jack Morris on. We were talking to Jack Morris on the desk, and he said, it's talking about his elevated ERA, 3.9 ERA for his career, and he said, listen, it was so hard to pitch 9 innings because I had to get through the lineup sometimes 4 and sometimes 5 times. And so guys now aren't getting the chance to, very rarely, with the exception of your number 1s and number 2s, 2 times through the lineup, and that's it. You're unleashing the bullpen.
There used to be a thought when you were a starting pitcher that when you went out there, you would conserve at different places to get through the lineup. If you're facing one of the big hitters, you might not pitch them the same way in the first inning as you would in the 4th or 5th. That's not the case now. It is 2 hours of fury from these starting pitchers, and they're coming and throwing as hard as they can and snapping off sliders as hard as they can, and I think that's why they have a hard time going deep in games.
And that's why we're seeing the rise of Tommy John surgeries, too.
And there's been so much talk, certainly on this network, about the importance of now bullpenning, and let's do that. But because we see it work in the postseason, to me, and I obviously leave it to you guys, the only way it works is if you have a lot of big arms. And right now we're seeing 3 and 4, and in some places like the Bronx, 5 arms that you can work in beginning in the 5th inning and on. You can't do it the same way you do it in the postseason in June.
Well, all the teams that finally get to the end of October deal with guys from the bullpen who can strike out people in the 6th or 7th inning. What I find interesting, though, is that when you look at bullpens, you certainly can't do this all season long.
No, but think about the Yankees' wild card game against the Twins, right? Their starter, Luis Severino, 2/3 of an inning, and he's out. Right. It turned out that was maybe the best thing that happened to the Yankees because they unleashed that bullpen.
Yeah, gave Severino's a bad name, but I think I'm over it. I'm over it now. The Yankees, by the way, that was a game managed by Joe Girardi. They will have a new skipper in 2018, along with 5 other teams around Major League Baseball. And a theme here is on this list, outside of Ron Gardenhire, Boone, Callaway, Cora, Kapler, Martinez. These guys have not managed before. Some have been around coaching staffs. Others have not. So you look at this and how it all ties back to the importance of the coaching staff, and most notably the bench coach. And we see a couple of guys on this list here, Chip Hale, Ron Renicky, who have that managerial experience, other guys who have coaching staff experience. How is this all going to shake out with these guys? Again, Gardenhire excluded because he's managed before. First-time managers in this role.
You know, it's funny. I was looking at that list, and I was thinking to myself, boy, some of those picks are very good. Ron Renicky, big fan of his. He's really good at doing his job. He's a great communicator, which you need to do with the manager if you're going to be the bench coach. I was surprised that I know Josh Bard is on a great arc to be a great baseball guy, if he's not already. But I thought they would have used a little more experience in the Bronx with Aaron Boone, who's going to be managing his first game. But it's interesting that this lack of experience seems to work for these guys that are trying to get jobs.
Ron, I think it goes to you look at front offices, we have so many young general managers in that old good boy network where a guy was fired for one job and he would take that manager with him to another job. I think right now general managers, it's great if you have some managing on your resume, but a guy like Aaron Boone, I think when that whole thing started and we heard Aaron Boone's name, the first thing negative, maybe this is old school thinking, was he's never managed before. I mean, Bob Bentley came out of the booth to work, and it worked for the Diamondbacks, right. but you would think that the Yankees wouldn't go that route. They would go the more safe route, and that's the route they chose.
You know, the thing is that I think the lack of experience almost helps some of these guys and lets the general managers kind of mold them into the manager maybe that they would want them to aspire to be. But I think even more importantly, I think when you look at guys like Aaron Boone, Mickey Callaway, just look at the two managers in New York. You heard a lot of words like communication. I heard the four-letter word love a couple of times. I mean, that is so strange for someone from my generation to hear a manager say he wants his players to know that he loves them. He's going to communicate with them. And more importantly, communicate with the front office to bring down that stack load of analytics and funnel it down so the players can use it.
And that's the other part of it, too, at least for me. But if you're looking at guys or in situations where certainly you're qualified and you have a lot of options, you can pick your terms, right? Situations where these guys are first-time managers, and I've heard it from other guys who have managed before, who go in and they say, well, what would you do if we gave you a lineup card? And they say, I don't think so. But if you've never had that job before, you may be willing to say, okay, if it gets me that job, I'll do what you want. You think that plays into it?
We had a great special on last night with Billy Martin. Could you imagine Billy Martin managing in today's game when he's sitting down at 4 o'clock and somebody from the analytic department comes in and say, here, how about this lineup today, right?
He would have needed Tommy John surgery for throwing the lineup card right back at the GM.
They don't make up the lineup card, but they will give you parameters that this person would hit very well against this person starting the game, almost kind of bounce passing you into a lineup.
All right, let's talk a little bit of money, too, because it was on this day that Dave Winfield in 1980 signed a deal that in 1981 would give him the richest contract in baseball. It was a 10-year, $23 million deal, right? This is 1980. 10 years, $23 million. I'm no mathematician. That's an AAV of $2.3 million per year. That's like a little bit above league minimum right about now. I'm kidding. But so you go from 1981, 10 years later, it jumps to 3.8 with Darryl Strawberry. Something happened in the 10 years between Strawberry and A-Rod where it jumped to 22. A-Rod again to 32 in 2011. And then in 2017, Clayton Kershaw at $33 million. You're a lefty, Dan. You're still in decent shape.
Yeah.
You should go get one of these jobs.
When I see this, I chuckle because my rookie year in 1986, the minimum salary was $60,000, and that's what I made. And I was having a really good year. And a bullpen coach, Larry Haney, in the month of September said, boy, kid, you ought to be lucky. You know, the minimum was $20,000. Wasn't that long ago. You're making $60,000. And I said, you know what I do right now? If Bud Selig and Harry Dalton, if they wanted to give me a 10-year contract, $200,000 a year, I'd sign it. I wouldn't know what to do with it. And he goes, you would really do that? I go, yeah, I would do that. It's crazy, isn't it?
It really is. My first year was $27,500 was the league minimum. But I think when we showed those pictures of Yastrzemski all the way through Kershaw, what you're showing for the ball players are guys before that went through a lot of work stoppages, lost a lot of paychecks because they fought for their rights and they fought for the free agents' rights, and that's why a guy like Kershaw now is making $33 million, and maybe Harper next year is making $4 million.
And that's why there's such an outcry to get Marvin Miller in the Hall of Fame.
Bryce Harper sitting on like potentially a $400 million plus contract.
Marvin Miller,
$400 million.
Marvin Miller needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, fix that, guys.
Yes,
Let's go.
Certainly a debate for another day.